Good people, today we'll be doing the nature of root, which is the topic that is covered in grade 11. So, for any equation in a form of a squared plus bx and then plus c, which is equals to 0, you can solve these equations either by factorization, or you can use this equation, which is the quadratic equation, where we have o minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, why did I wrote this in red? Because the nature of root, in order for us to determine the nature of root, we use this would be squared minus 4ac. Then what do we call that? Now this b squared minus 4ac, we call it a delta, or we call it discriminant, where we are saying b squared minus 4ac. That's what we use in order for us to determine what the nature of root. Now remember, in other words, let me write this thing down. In other words, it's determine this thing. It determines whether your x values are real or non-real or rational or irrational or irrational. Or it's either equal or unequal. That's what this thing does. The delta, it determines whether your x values are real or non-real, rational or irrational. Now remember, we're saying the nature of roots. Now what is the roots? It's very important. The roots are the values of x, or you call it an x-intercept. That's what the roots are. We call it the values of x, or the values of x, or the x-intercept when you are calculating this thing. Let's say we are solving for x here. You need to factorize those x values that you're gonna get. That's what the roots are. Then this thing now, it's gonna determine how are those values of x are gonna be. Those values x real, non-real, rational, or equal or unequal. Now let's go back to this table here. I have this table. So if you find the nature of the root by using now this thing, which is our delta, when you find a delta which is greater or equals to 0, meaning your nature of roots, or your roots, are going to be greater or equals to 0. If your delta is greater or equals to 0, or if your delta is a real root, your delta must be greater or equals to 0. Now if it's non-real, remember the nature of root must be less than 0. Now remember, this delta, it's under the square root. So obviously if it's less than 0, meaning these are negative numbers. So negative numbers, we don't have a square root of a negative number. So obviously that thing is going to be non-real, because we can't find the square root of a negative number. Now if it's equal, equal, meaning we have one solution. Meaning if we are saying something is equal, that's where we have two values of x that are the same. So if you calculate the value of x, let's say x is equals to 2, and then you find another x is equals to 2, then we call the thing gonna be equal. So equal meaning your delta, if you're calculating your delta, we find an answer there, it's gonna be equals to 0. Now the unequal root, that's where you find two solutions, meaning two solutions, you're gonna find the roots or the values of x that are not equal, meaning they are not the same. You're gonna find 2 or the other one, or let's say the other one, you're gonna find 8. So those unequal roots, so those roots are unequal if you find the values of x that are not the same. So the delta there must be greater than 0. Now remember, it's greater than 0, but it's not equals to 0. It's only greater than 0. Now, a rational root. Now, if you're finding a rational root, they'll find your delta. Now it's a perfect square. Now, numbers that are perfect square are the numbers that have a square root and then doesn't give you any decimal number. So, perfect square number is like a square root of 4, square root of 9, a square root of 16. Those numbers give you just exactly the perfect square. You don't get any square roots there. You don't get any decimal places. Square root of 4, it's 2. Square root of 9, it's 3. Square root of 16, it's 4. Those are perfect square. They just give you the whole number of this thing. Now, irrational roots are the numbers that are not a perfect square. So if you find any number that is not a perfect square, then those numbers are irrational. So those are irrational roots. I hope everyone understand that. Now let's go to an example. Let me just do this example with you. So we have determine the nature of roots of the following equation. Now we have this. Remember, how do we determine the nature of root? Determining the nature of root, we need to find the delta. Now remember, the delta is equals to b squared minus 4ac. Now we need to determine our value of a and c here. So our a, this is our a, and then this is our b, and then this is our c. Remember, b is a coefficient of an x value, meaning we have negative. There is 1 here, that is here. So it's going to be -1, our coefficient of b, and then c it's -8, and then our a it's 5. Now let's substitute. We're going to have b squared, which is going to be -1 all squared, and then minus 4. Our a, it's going to be 5. And then our c, it's going to be what? -8. Now, punching our calculator here and getting our answer, we're going to get an answer of 161. Now, we need to ask ourselves, this 161, is it a real number or non-real number? It is a real number since it's positive. So we can say the roots here are real. Because this number, it is greater than what? Than 0. So greater or equals to 0, we can say it's a real number. Now, is it a rational number or irrational number? Now, asking yourself, is it a perfect square? If you put this number 161 under the calculator, are you gonna get a square root that doesn't have any decimal number? No, meaning this one is what? Is irrational number. So these are irrational roots. Now, is this equal or non-equal? Remember, if you say something is equal, it has to give us 0. Our delta has to give us what? 0. So this is not equal to 0, meaning our root here are what? A non-equal. A non-equal. I hope you can understand that one. I hope we are on the same page on that one. So hope you did understand here is very important. This determines, is it this a real number? Yes, it is a real number. Is it a rational? or irrational is not a perfect square. If it's a perfect square, it's going to be rational. Then is it equal or non-equal? If it was equal, it's going to be equals to 0. Our delta is going to be equals to 0, meaning it's unequal. I hope you can see that one. Now, let's go to this one. For which values of m will the equation x squared plus 4x plus m is equals to 0 have an unequal root? Now, the unequal root, you must know if we have an unequal root, what is our delta? If we have an unequal root, our delta is what? It's greater than 0. Now we need to substitute our delta. What is our delta? Our delta is b squared minus 4ac, and then remember this is unequal roots, meaning it's going to be greater than 0. And then from here we need to substitute. Remember now, our a here is going to be 1, our b it's 4, and then our c is going to be this m. So now b is going to be 4 squared, then minus 4 a remember it's 1, and then our c it's what? It's m. And then from there we need to find 4 squared. Then what is 4 squared? 4 squared is 16, so we're gonna have 16 minus 4m. This is gonna give us 4m. Remember this one is still greater than 0, and then now remember we're finding the value of m. We're going to take this one to the other side. It's going to be positive, so it's going to be 4m. Then we divide by 4. Now this cancels this, and then 16 divided by 4, it's going to give us what? It's going to give us 4. So remember now, so the values of m to give us an unequal root, our m must be greater than 4 to get what? To get an equal root. This is what A was doing, number A here. Now let's do B. Now B, they say you must find the equal root. Now equal root must be, the delta must be equals to 0. Now remember our delta is still the same. It's going to be b squared minus 4ac equals to 0. We're gonna substitute everything that is here. So everything that is here, just not gonna put it everything, it's gonna give us this. Just gonna reach this stage because everything is gonna be this, and then it's gonna give us this, so it's gonna give us this 16 minus 4m, which is now equals to 0. This on the other side, which is 16, is equals to 4m. Then we're gonna divide by 4, this cancels this, so 16 minus divided by 4 is going to give us 4. So in order for us by m, in order for us to this equation to have an equal root, our m must be exactly equals to 4. Must be exactly equals to 4 in order for us to get an equals to the equal real root. Now C, to get a non-real root. Now I hope you know that to have a non-real root, this thing must be negative, so meaning our delta must be less than 0. So now delta it's b squared minus 4ac less than 0. This thing, guys, is gonna give us this, then it's gonna be 16 minus 4m, which is less than 0. Take this to the other side, so it's 16 less than 4m, divide by 4, our, okay, let me say divide by 4, and then this give us what? Give us 4, and equals or less than m. So now to find the non-real root, our m must be exactly less than 4. Our m must be less than 4 in order for us to get what? To get the non-real root. Now let's go to this last question that I have here. Now they are telling us that show that the root, you show, guys, you show the root of this equation. Which equation? This equation is gonna be a rational for all rational values of p. Now we must show that. Showing the rational, remember rational, you must find something that is a perfect square. Now let's get going. Let's get going. Delta is equals to b squared minus 4ac. Now this thing that we have here, it's x squared plus px plus up. Take 1 to the other side, it's going to be minus 1 is equals to 0. Now our value of a here is going to be 1. Our value of b here, it's going to be p. And our value of c, it's going to be the whole this, which is p minus 1. That is going to be our c. Now let's get going. My b, it's p, so it's going to be p squared, then minus 4. Our a, it's going to be 1, and then our c, it's going to be what? P minus 1. And from here, then we have this p squared, and then 4 times this one is just going to give us negative 4 into p minus 1. Now we need to times by this 4 with the both terms that are inside the bracket. So we're going to have p squared and then negative 4p and then plus 4. Now we need to factorize this thing. How can we factorize this thing? It's going to be p minus 2 and then p and then a minus 2. This p, this negative 2 times this negative 2 give us this positive 4, and then minus 2 give us negative 4. Now this thing, we can write this thing as p minus 2 all squared, because this thing is just the same thing that's repeated twice. Now p squared, p minus 2 all squared, this thing, because if we can find the square root of x squared, square root of x squared is just x. So the same thing as p minus 2 all squared, the square root of this is just p minus 2. So this thing, it's a perfect square. It's a perfect square. So if this is a perfect square, therefore our delta is what? Is a rational. I hope you understand. We have already shown that our p, what was the question? That this value are going to be a rational for all rational values of p, because this thing that we found here, it's a perfect square. In order to find the rational, your delta must be a perfect square. Now let's do b. Let me copy down the equation. It's going to be x squared plus tx plus 2x plus 1, if I'm not mistaken, or plus t. Then plus t is equals to 0. Let's read the question. The question is saying, show that the roots of the equation are real and unequal for all the real values of t. Now the real and unreal. Now let's go to our delta. Now first, before we go to our delta, let's simplify this. It's gonna be x squared plus, now we have two x's here, this one and this one. Remember, these two are what? These two, which is tx and 2x are like terms, so we can add those two, which is going to be t plus 2, all this into x, and then plus t, which is equals to 0. Now my value of a, it's going to be 1, and then my b it's gonna be ut plus 2, and then my c is gonna be ut. Now let's get going. Remember, the delta is equals to b squared minus 4ac equals to my b squared. Now remember, my b is what? It's t plus 2 all squared minus 4. My a is what? It's 1. Then my c is what? It's t equals to t. This one is just a repetition of the same thing. So what is the product of this? It's going to be t squared plus 4t and then plus 4. And then timesing this, it's going to give us what? It's going to give us minus 4t. Now from here, this and this are like terms, so this gonna count as this, and then we have t squared plus 4. Now from here, I hope you see that our minimum value here is what? It's 4. So this thing to be as our minimum value, and this thing as a positive sign here, we can't factorize this thing, and we can't say this thing is a what? It's a perfect square. No, if it's not a perfect square, this thing is gonna be real, but at the same time it's gonna be unequal, as what the question was telling us. We needed to show that this is real and non-equal for all the values, meaning from here finding this is a t squared, but having this positive sign and then minimum here to be a value of 4, then it's telling us these are real and unequal root. I hope you understood everything that I did in this video. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel, and thank you for the support that you are giving me. Thank you so much.